In this video, you will learn the 3 essential things for me in my full recovery from psychosis. These are things that help me feel safe, grounded, and eventually like myself again when my symptoms completely subdue. I'm sharing my personal experience that I gathered from and beyond therapy from professionals in over a decade of recovery. This is not therapy or medical advice, although I do believe it can be just as powerful, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. But these were very essential things that helped me personally, and I believe it can help others too. So let's start with the first essential thing, which is building a toolbox for nervous system regulation. And when you hear nervous system regulation, you might have no idea what that word means, so I will explain it in a simple way. Nervous system regulation is the ability to calm down after something distressful. So maybe you feel stressed, and then you have the ability to calm down again. And it's basically your body's threat and safety system. It's constantly unconsciously scanning if you are safe, and it can respond to external or internal things as if it's perceiving a threat. Think of when it's dark at home watching TV and then suddenly you hear a loud noise outside. Most of us will respond with a more heightened response because everyone learns basically that, oh, dark outside and a sudden noise, better be on edge. So that all goes automatically. And if we look at it from the lens of the window of tolerance, a lot of people can stay stuck in certain responses, especially noticed with people that experience psychosis have a very narrow window of tolerance. And that means that you are either often in the hyperarousal or hyperarousal response, the times that you feel actually overall calm and regulated, is often not as big. The good news is that you can expand your window of tolerance, and that means that you expand the capacity to stay regulated, to stay calm. It's not about the absence of stress or difficult things or emotions, but it's about building enough capacity to be able to hold these emotions and experiences, and that they eventually process and go on. The science says that an emotion stays in your body for around 90 seconds. So you will basically learn how to handle things and how to grow your capacity, and that's what nervous system and nervous system regulation is all about. But before I embarked on that journey, it was very essential for me to have gathered tools. Tools are basically nothing more than things that feel helpful or help you in times of stress. In therapy, these can be called healthy coping mechanisms. It can be very different for everyone. I made a sheet of ideas for nervous system regulation. You can download it for free. Link is in my bio. So these are tools that will help you feel calm, soothed, comforted after you maybe feel stressed, anxious, depressed, numb. Like I said before, everyone is very different. So I would like to invite you on your own exploration journey to find out and maybe write down what things are helpful for you in certain situations. For some people that can be medication as an intervention, for maybe when you have insomnia, you have a tool of medication ready. Maybe you have a friend that you can always talk to. Maybe you really like to go for a walk or watch your favorite TV show whenever you feel a little bit down. Then you already have like 4 tools ready. These tools don't solve everything, but they are a safety net, something you can always come back to when things feel overwhelming, when things feel like too much. And building this toolbox was really essential for me, because without it, I had nothing to rely on when things were overwhelming. And if I had to do it again, I would really explore and find as many things as I can, because a good support system can be very essential. Being and having the right environment is also very essential. And when we talk about recovery, because if you're in a toxic or very negative environment that is really affecting for a recovery journey. So the second essential thing for me is the nervous system regulation itself. I have gathered my tools, and then I can really start practicing very low threshold. So that can look like, for instance, when I feel anxious, I will then respond to it. I will get into bed and watch my favorite TV show, maybe with nice, comfortable blankets, I got myself a tea. That's maybe what I need in that moment. It can help support these feelings, because it's not about fixing things or getting rid of things. That's a mistake that can be made often. It's really about being able to learn to respond. It's really in responding, not fixing the feelings, with compassion, doing things that or feel that might be helpful for you in that moment. And I would really be patient with myself, because depending where you're from or what you've learned, it's really a skill, Skills are not built or made in one day. So I would really be patient with myself and take time and really integrate these parts. This step is really a great way to, gain awareness as well. Like, oh, I notice I often feel anxious, or I often feel numb and angry. Of course, medication can play a role in numbness. So that's why I think it's always important to keep evaluating together with a medical professional, to always evaluate, like, hey, is this still the right dosage for me? Really take agency in that part of recovery. Other than that, you might encounter the same feelings, and that's not a bad thing. They say that emotions are often messages, messengers of your system, like saying, hey, this scares me, or hey, I feel a bit scared. For instance, maybe you feel very anxious a lot of the times for a relapse. It can be very interesting and important to gain awareness about, hey, this emotion comes back often, not in like a judgmental way, but an observant way, because later on in the parts work, you can engage more in that, so that eventually that can ease down. And that's what we will go to in step 3. But first, it's very helpful, to build that skill of nervous system regulation. Really like, okay, I got my tools and I know how to respond. I know things that are helpful for me. I have like my safety net ready. And then, going to step 3, which is parts work. And that's a thing that has been very essential to me in my recovery. Learned a lot from therapy modalities, and I also learned a lot beyond, because although therapy modalities have been helpful, they were often, the ones I had, pretty rigid. I also think they're very one-size-fits-all, while I believe that, everyone is different, and it can be very overwhelming experience. And I found that doing this on my own has been a lot more helpful. Sometimes people really need a therapist, and embarking on this, because doing parts work or the other things are too overwhelming in themselves, so they might really need a therapist to co-regulate with. There's no shame in that. It can be very helpful, maybe important part of your process. I leave that up to you, because I cannot look or think how that is for you, but I can, explain how it's been for me. And therapy has been very essential in my early recovery, especially developing a human perspective on psychosis, like explained in my other videos. And then later on, embarking on parts work on my own has been very essential, because I could go in my own pace. It's a lot more gentle for me, and also deeper, because although the modalities have been helpful, they would often not reach as deep. So parts work is about, we all have different parts from ourselves, not in a scary way, and we all have something they call in therapy the core self, the adult self. Parts work to me is about really strengthening that core self, so that you're really in your window of tolerance most of the time. Your nervous system can really hold a lot of accumulated emotions, accumulated stress, maybe trauma. And parts work is, to me, about getting to know these parts and responding accordingly. For example, if you feel anxious a lot of the time, then you can check in awareness of like, okay, there's this part of me that feels really anxious, and it makes a lot of sense that it feels anxious because, if we have the example of the fear of a relapse, it makes so much sense. So I would really validate that feeling first, because having dealt with psychosis is a lot. It's a lot for your system. It can be a very impactful event. It makes so much sense that you would feel anxious, and then it can be very helpful to give that part the space it needs to feel sad. And at the same time, when you feel ready, you can close the loop. It's really important for me to do that after the validating and after giving it space, and really feel like, okay, now I can do this, because otherwise it might be invalidating. It's such a personal thing, and it can be really helpful to then show like, okay, hey, I get that you feel anxious, and I have a lot of things in place now. I have a very great safety net. I know what to do if I ever were to experience symptoms again. I'm here for you. That's just an example of a dialogue you can have with yourself, you can have with the parts that you have. So it has been very essential in my recovery to get to know kind of these different parts of myself. Some were very anxious, some were angry, and it's all okay and it's all normal. But by giving the attention that they need, by naming them and creating a safe space for them to exist, I eventually could feel more whole again. And again, here, it's not about fixing anything, but just about acknowledging and allowing these parts to exist without judgment. And looking at therapy frameworks can be very helpful in this process, such as IBS or schema therapy. Doing this with a therapist can be helpful as well. I would just really check how things are for me. I would not want to overwhelm myself in this process. I would really take it slow, and it's about being consistent as well. And it's better to do like very slow and small, but be consistent, than do very big, overwhelming things. And your nervous system is a great compass. It will always tell you to, like, I need to slow down. So I think signs of dysregulation, like overwhelm, a lot of fear, or disbalance, those are all signs to me that I need to take a step back, fall back on those regulation tools, and afterwards check what the course forward to look like for me. And that's why building the toolbox has been the number one of essential things to me. It's the anchor, the safety net, and everything else grows from there. Let me know in the comments if you want a part 2 of some sort, where we can dive deeper into regulation or parts work or toolbox or all of them. Let me know. I love to help out. My book, Psychosis Recovery 101, has also been released. You can order it on Amazon. It's a great guide on your recovery journey. Take care of yourself, and remember, small safe steps can be life-changing. I hope this video was helpful, and see you in the next video.